Okay, Sam. This has got to be a quick one.
Okay.
Got to do a quick one.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Recluse Horror. I know that's not what I say, but we're trying to speed through stuff because people are waiting on us and we're going places. It's lots happening here today that has no concern for anybody. So this is the 41st episode of Recluse Horror. This is a daily horror movie review podcast. Every day I review one horror movie, and I review another one that I previously reviewed in text. Oh, that's in a terrible order. I don't care. That's all I'm saying. Daily horror podcast. If you want to know more about it, listen to any other episode ever. So today we watched a short film because was bad at time management and was painting her nails and doing dumb stuff. It's a short film called Knock from 2011. Which you can find on the Cowmaster Studios YouTube page. Sam, how did you like Knock from 2011?
It was fine.
Good. Next movie.
Yeah, it was fine.
No, yeah, I thought it was okay. It'd be nice to have an ending.
Yeah, that was
movies
really,
with endings are good.
That's really the problem.
Yeah.
It's only 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. I don't care about the length. Some people that just like
that was only 3 minutes, even though this was the best 3 minutes I've seen all year.
Yeah, they just don't care how long it is.
Yeah.
It just had a setup, and it got to the climax, and then it just stopped, and that's probably the biggest complaint I have.
Yeah.
There was like the acting was fine, not great.
Mm-hmm. Well, you could tell that girl was really trying too.
Yeah, it's a lot of there was a lot of reaction shots, and like the character needed to be in a specific, state of mind or emotion, and that all came through. I think the dialogue was a little unnatural.
There were a couple of and her line delivery honestly could have been better, but you could see that she was really trying.
Yeah, and it wasn't terrible either.
No, it wasn't.
Like somebody could be like, that was terrible, but I don't think it was terrible.
I don't think it was. I've seen much worse.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a super small film. I've seen worse in real big budget movies. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I thought she was more than passable, and I like seeing when people are actually trying instead of just like, reading their lines to the camera. Yeah. She was legitimately trying. She was trying to emote. She was trying to deliver her lines in a convincing way. There's
only two characters.
Yeah.
One of the other characters that isn't the main person in the film is the writer-director.
Oh, that's Derek Nunes?
Yeah.
Who played that guy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the director is named Derek Nunez probably, but there's no Cydia on
But
it.
yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty interesting for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell they were trying to rush through because it seemed like, I can't imagine it was shot in anything but like one night or one day or whatever. Just like everything
for sure.
done.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of good shots. There's a decent amount of lighting for like what I assume was almost probably no lighting, no lights.
Yeah.
Everything was really visible, and you could really, it obviously wasn't the best lighting ever, but for what it was actually probably better than it really should have been or could have been.
Yeah. This is Sam, by the way. I didn't introduce him.
Hey.
Agreed.
The viewer knows me.
The viewer knows. Yeah, it's true. The fan.
The fan. The one person that listens to the podcast.
Yeah, it's true. And your voice is very distinct, so,
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I pretty much agreed. I was really impressed with some of the cinematography and the shots that they tried and
there
accomplished.
was actually some really good ones that I actually really liked.
Me too.
Just shots, angles, a few and this is like a very like cliche common thing, but like a doorway that looked decently like angled and focused in on stuff like that was the attention to detail was there
for sure.
It fell short on a few things, but
really the only thing is that it did not have a conclusion. That's the thing. I figured since we mentioned that there's no conclusion, that we won't actually synopsize the movie, because if you synopsize the movie and then tell them that it doesn't have an ending, then you've told them everything. So I'm going to leave this one clandestine. Again, you can find it from Cowmaster Studios. Best production company name ever. I super love it.
Yeah, apparently which we didn't do, and I just looked on the IMDb reviews.
Huh.
It says watch till after the end credits.
Oh,
which we did
do
not
that.
do.
Damn
so
it.
we have no idea what happens at the end.
Oh my god.
I guess
Pull it up on your phone.
I guess you have something to talk about tomorrow.
No! I'm gonna pause. Okay, so we watched the last little bit after the end credits, which I always hate. I always hate when they put stuff after the credits. Like, I don't really necessarily mind on feature-length films because I usually, if I see them in the theater, I sit through it anyway. But in short films, I'll never see that. If you put that at the end of your credits, like, I am never going to see that unless I left my computer on while I did something else right after the movie. But regardless, that puts a little more of a cap on it, but it still doesn't explain anything.
It really didn't add much.
Yeah, and to be fair, and this is not a problem with this movie. This is a problem with fucking YouTube. But the main portion of what they're trying to show you there is buried in like the next videos, the suggested videos when you watch it on YouTube, so you only get like half of what they're trying to show you, which is irritating. And if they had moved that stuff to the other side of the screen even, it would have been better because you would have been able to see more of what they were trying to show you. But that's just YouTube. They didn't film this, with the assumption it was going to be on YouTube exclusively, or maybe it's not.
And end title sequences don't really bother me if it adds something to the story that isn't needed,
Yeah.
And with this already not having an ending, it is needed / still not enough, so it's still kind of like...
But it does improve it. Like, even with such a small, tiny little...
It's adds a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an end credit after that end credit that actually says what happened. But anyways, I guess I'm done talking about this movie.
Yeah, I would usually go a little bit more in depth in this stuff, but we're pushing through. It takes me 7 hours to get ready for anything, and I don't have 7 hours. So, and I might be too drunk to edit this when I come back, so we'll see. But anyway, so that was our review of Knock from 2011. Not bad. That helped, and it's great to see, independent filmmakers doing their thing, of course. Sam? Any final? Okay. Knock, 2011. So the next movie that we're going to talk about as quick as we can is The Den from 2013. Now, my expectations were very low going into this movie, and I was really pleasantly surprised by the end of it. With such a lackluster title and boring cover that they have on what is it, Netflix, I really didn't have very high hopes for this one, but being that I don't really read the descriptions of the movies that I watch, I have to judge based on some criteria, so I just kind of avoided that one for a while. The Den is about a woman that decides to do a research project based on the types of people who one can come in contact with on the internet through a site called The Den, which is essentially their version of chat roulette. Anyone who's been on there can tell you that is probably not going to go well, especially if you're a pretty girl, and it doesn't. Sam, how did you like The Den?
Less than you.
Yeah, I have a very distinct memory of how much I liked it more than you, but...
do you remember how much I liked it? Because we did watch this together.
Yeah, we did. This was one we did.
I remember probably not enjoying watching it that much. But like thinking back, there's a lot of good ideas and a lot of good things in the movie. If I recall correctly, I think the pacing for me was bad. I liked the end. Yeah. I liked the build up, but I think the pacing, most of it takes place in like basically one room.
Yeah.
And not a ton of interesting stuff happens. And so it's kind of just, you feel like you're just kind of like grinding away at the movie, just like, like, okay, well, could you fucking do something now? There's
definitely a few bits where it moves away from that one room. They definitely could break it up a little bit more. But the thing that I liked is that it wasn't like they spent a lot of time in the one location and then right after that a lot of time in another location. It was like they'd spend 10 minutes in one location, then they'd spend a couple minutes in another, then they'd come back to that main location.
No, I think that bugged me more than anything.
Really?
That you feel like, oh, we're out of the room, we're out of that part of the movie. Like, we can finally do something different and see something different. And then you actually just get put back in there for another, like, 15 minutes.
I see.
And then so on and so forth.
Yeah. I can kind of understand that perspective.
But the directing was really good. The director only did, like, 2 other things, a short film.
Really?
And some other movies. So that was really good. he also was one of the writers.
Mm-hmm.
The acting was good to
Yeah.
fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I found the most interesting is that the movie is told through the perspective of the main character's desktop for the most part, like her, computer desktop, which is an idea that I really liked and that worked well in most places. You can see her den chat, her emails, and various other things as she pulls them up on the computer. The locations they go to in the film are fine looking, with one particular location feeling really outstanding. Do you remember which one?
Is it at the end?
Yeah, it's towards the end. Yeah,
that really helped the movie. The end. I think I don't think the end's great, but it does a lot more than most horror movie ends.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they might have been saving up that, and why the other part is of the movie is kind of like very the same, very much the same thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But the end was it led up to something that was pretty good. Right. Which is a lot better than leading up to something that's bad.
For sure.
And the movie is mostly lead up.
Yeah, it's true. So you can see the lead actress's face. Like I said, it's mostly on her desktop, but you can see her face in a smaller section of the screen, the corner of the screen like you would when you're using a webcam. But honestly, I rarely found myself looking at her for longer than a glance. Instead, I was pretty much focused on the same things that she would be. For that reason, it's sort of hard for me to judge much of her acting beyond how the lines were delivered, and honestly, I thought that was pretty good. There were maybe one or two people whose performances could have been better, but probably, just like chat roulette, she can get rid of someone she's chatting with one click of her mouse and be connected with the next random person that the servers decide, to connect her with. So the bad performances that exist in the movie are usually really short ones. And there's a lot of those.
Yeah, those are pretty good. I like those.
Yeah. I like the idea of them and the nature of all of the different, because a lot of them are pretty realistic. You'll find people just hanging out. You'll find somebody trying to prank you. You'll find somebody who's, naked.
Seems like the only reason to go on, but okay.
Is the naked stuff?
Yes.
That's what it seems like. I've never actually been on there because why would you?
Never been on there either.
But from what I hear, there's lots of nakeds on there, so. The sort of people that she encounters, like I said, seem like a good sample of what you'll find on sites like that, just condensed into a small enough period of the film that you understand the sort of stuff you're in for on sites like that. So it's good if you don't know anything about chat roulette. It'll give you a pretty good sense. Of course, you're not going to get that concentration of like different varied groups, probably. But again, it's just condensed down for the purposes of like explaining through their storytelling what it's like. Right. She seems aware that there are deviants and trolls out there, but in a pretty privileged white girl fashion, she has no idea how bad it can get. Of course, the events that transpire in this movie are an extreme case, but much like other public spaces, a certain type of man acts as though they have ownership of it and see women as targets that are asking for trouble by entering it. Try hanging out on B or playing Rust. Hell, even just Call of Duty on an Xbox with one of your female friends for a few hours and see how drastically different your experience is if you have trouble understanding what I mean. Sam, do you remember like 10 years ago when I would come over and you would be playing Call of Duty and I would get on the headset and they would think that I was playing? And the things that they would say and do?
For the record, I've never played Call of Duty. That is...
It was his roommates. It was
for
his roommates.
Terrible people. If I did play, it was for a very short time to see what people were talking about, and I disliked it.
That's true.
Just to be sure. And yeah, I remember, and it's not surprising. It's terrible. Yeah. But not surprising, especially since all those people are assholes to me. Yeah. Too.
For sure.
And just
okay, but it's a weirdly specific type of asshole.
It's definitely different.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I didn't want to play Call of Duty. Well, to be fair, you didn't either. But what else are you gonna do? But like, I didn't want to play. So and you didn't want to be on headset.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of that aspect.
It really does. Anyway, the story seems to follow a fairly common path for a person that thinks something terrible is going on at first. After a while, it seems like they've painted themselves into a corner with the story, but to me, they really pulled it out. I didn't see the end playing out the way it did, and I was shocked by the messages that the movie carried in its final moments. These details are impossible to talk about, unfortunately, without completely giving away the ending. But it really marked a much more important message than I've seen out of American horror in a while. How did you like, did you connect with that message on any level, or?
A little bit. Not probably not as much as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the end, I feel like this movie's like, either you feel like it was worth watching the movie to get to the end, or you don't.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how anybody who watches it or judges it by, is like, okay, the build up and then the end, and the end wasn't good enough for the build up. I feel like it just barely is for me, because it just
went right over that line.
Yeah, just barely over the line, and still, I couldn't. I don't know who I would really recommend this to, because that's really the case. Right. So if you recommend it to somebody and they feel like it wasn't worth it, like, I'd be like, yeah, I totally understand. I totally understand that. Yeah. It's kind of drudges its way to the end. Right. I actually really like the end and wish the movie was more like the end. I wish the end was more the middle, and then it escalated to something else. Yeah. So it would have been like, because it feels like first chapter, second chapter, last chapter. It's over. No.
Then it's over?
Yeah, then it's over. Yeah. Do you remember how short the last part is?
I did.
Do you remember how excited I was that we were out of that room when it happened?
I do, actually. I had forgotten about that.
I was like, oh, finally.
It's maybe 10 or 15 minutes out of the whole movie is when you get to the real third act parts. And
it's not just like one scene that happens in the third act. It's this whole scene that plays out. Several. And it just kind of finishes the movie.
Well, and not only that, but there's some nuance to it. They sort of build some stuff in there that it's like, they don't explain everything, which again is one of the things that I think makes this ending compelling. But there's clearly stuff going on that you don't understand, but that it's clear that the filmmakers had a very specific picture of what's going on, of what's happening. Not in a way that they're not explaining. It's just like, it's not. They spent their time to actually craft what would be required for this movie. For the events of this movie to take place. And even though they're only showing us like a little glimpse of it, it's more than enough to know that like they really put thought and effort into it. And I really appreciated that. That was one of my favorite aspects, actually. Again, the ending really is the best part, whether you enjoy it, whether you end up enjoying the movie or not. I would say get to the end of the movie and watch the end of the movie, because that's really the best part for a lot of reasons. I think if you're someone who is actually freaked out or scared by horror movies, this actually is a pretty good one to go.
It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, there's definitely some.
And then by the end, I could see somebody feeling that way.
There's definitely some shock and some creep for sure. Especially if you've ever been a girl on the internet, you'll probably see a lot of that. But
I've been a girl on the internet, and I still didn't scare me very much.
Sam always picks girl characters and everything, so people mistakenly think he's a girl. The fan does that too a lot. I wonder if that happens to the fan. We should ask him.
Probably.
Fan.
But I've been a girl on the internet. You can't take that away from me.
That's true. You've been many girls on the internet. Most of them redheads. Fan, reach out to me and let me know about your experience as a girl on the internet and gaming. So anyway, yeah. Many of the things that this movie indicates and discusses and talks about, they're not new, but coming as unexpected as they were, I really appreciated it. The movie was definitely heading in a direction that would have made it yet another forgettable entry in this very crowded genre. But with the unique visual styling and the important things that this movie tried to draw attention to, it definitely ended up ahead of the pack as far as I'm concerned. So there is one thing that I've been sort of avoiding talking about, and I think this is how we'll probably end it, is talking about this. But there's one divide that I really must address here, which may affect your particular enjoyment of the movie, and you've probably gathered this from what we've said already. As in the experience of many people online or in person, the woman in this movie is very much put in the position of a person experiencing something that's just not right. When she contacts the police with her concerns, they tell her there isn't really much that they can do, but they'll pass it along. As more and more weird stuff continues to happen, she keeps trying to get the police involved, talking to others in her life about what's happening, and at best, they indulge her and, try to keep from her arguing with them. At the worst, they straight up gaslight her, saying that she's imagining things or blowing the situation out of proportion. If you've gone to your loved ones and you've gone to law enforcement, what more are you possibly supposed to do in this situation? In situations like that, where you feel like someone else is in danger, the feeling of helplessness and the level of frustration that you go through and the fear, it's something that thankfully most never really have to experience. But there are milder terrors that probably half of the people experience all of the time. How many people do you know that have just been walking around and noticed that someone appeared to be following them? How many people that have had a vehicle drive by them at a crawl late at night? How many have turned someone down only to have them behave violently or erratically? How many have had a person stalking them, even if it was probably nothing? How many people have laughed off inappropriate behavior because if they reacted the way that they thought they should, they might be put into danger? I doubt that if you ask the women in your life, there is even one that could honestly say they've never experienced one of these things happening. And for many women, it's a constant fear. Of course, men experience some of these same things, and we shouldn't diminish that, but few parents and authority figures drill into their brains from birth until death that it's their responsibility to do everything that they can to avoid angering and provoking, that's provoking in quotes, obviously, the men in their lives. They're supposed to be sweet and polite, or otherwise when something happens, it'll be our fault. Men are told not to drink and drive, but women are told that if they go out for drinks and someone harms them, that they were asking for it, or at the very least, it's their own fault. Though things are changing, violence against women is an assumed reality, and it's women who are taught to fight against it, while men are rarely taught to fight against it in themselves. There's no controlling over other people, and when you feel that you're smaller or weaker than the people you are forced to interact with on a daily basis, or if you believe that those same people see you that way even if you don't, it's hard and in some cases stupid not to fall into that way of thinking. This is a daily reality that few men can understand even if they truly make the effort. Looking at every person that approaches you as a potential attacker and responding against your will with fear may seem extreme, but it's what most of us go through every time we're alone. This movie shows a tiny glimpse into some of the most very common fears we live with and that men cannot identify with, and thus they probably won't be able to connect with this movie on all of those levels. That isn't to say that they won't enjoy the movie, like Sam did. He's a man, I swear. But without that perspective, it's hard to fully understand. Without that perspective, much of the fear isn't there, and most likely some of the appeal. So, I mean, it's not necessarily something for anything. If you hadn't guessed, I was reading directly from my review on that one because I don't have time to actually put this into words out loud. But do you remember, Sam, today I read that article about the woman whose roommate stabbed her? Mm-hmm. So this happened this very day. I'm just going to give one example. I think this happened this week. I'm not positive. I think it might have been last night. And it just so happens that we picked this movie. I didn't really think about it when we were picking this movie. It just was the first one that came up, really. There is a woman who had been receiving threats from her roommate, and she had called the police a number of times because he had been breaking into her room and threatening her. So she posts on Facebook last night or the night before, or whenever this was, a video, telling her friends, basically that she woke up in the middle of the night and her roommate was standing over her with a knife. And she said, at this point, I don't even bother trying to call the police because they say they can't do anything about it. He is on the lease as well as she is, so there's nothing that we can do. In the week that she died, she had made contact with police 3 times. And they couldn't do anything. So 13 minutes after she makes this Facebook post, she makes another post that says, essentially, I need a bodyguard for the next 30 days, a live-in bodyguard, who, are there any takers out there, basically. Within 7 hours of that post, they had found her body. She was dead. So, she had gone to the cops multiple times, had tried to get any help that she could, and, they dismissed the whole thing. They said that they couldn't do anything. They didn't offer to do any help beyond, criminal, beyond charging him. Even if there's not a charge, maybe they can send her somewhere. Maybe they can, advise her to go to her parents. And I don't know, maybe they did. But regardless, if you make that much contact with the police, they need to do something. Anybody in that situation, I don't think anybody that I know has ever been in quite that level of a situation, which is really fortunate. But definitely everybody knows that feeling of somebody not taking their concerns seriously. And just not feeling heard and feeling like you're the one who's crazy because of it. And it's fucking terrible. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just something that I wanted to talk about for some reason. Sam, I'm sorry I left you alone over here.
Yeah, the movie was better than I thought it was going to be. It still wasn't a great movie. Oh, I was talking about the movie.
Yeah. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. The world's terrible.
Yeah.
That's one of the many terrible things in the world.
Yeah. Well,
not that, I'm glad you talked about it.
Yeah.
There's just not much more I can add.
I know.
To that.
I realized.
There's not a lot I could say on it.
I realized by, paragraph 2 of that. I realized by, paragraph 2 of that there's not really much that you can contribute.
Well, I could contribute a ton of stuff. It's just not necessary.
I mean, I put you on the spot. Is what I'm saying. No,
you had this long monologue.
I know.
And I could have got soda or done all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're listening to this, I guess just basically, try to be cool. Everybody try to be cool to each other. Cool. Everybody be cool. And I don't mean that in a up for anything sense of the word. I mean just be chill to one another, huh?
Or up for anything.
Or
no. If that's what you're into.
Yeah, if that's what you're into, for
or
sure.
Or not, just be cool about it.
Sam, thanks for not being a sexist, chauvinist asshole. I'd like to make that clear to everybody. That
I am a girl on the internet, so in some way I kind of
you understand. You have had probably more exposure to what it's like being a girl on the internet than other men. I would say that for sure.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
How many times you play a game? How many times you play Metal Gear or something and have just guys circling around you, doing literally nothing, but just circling around your character? It used to be a lot more common in older games. The beginning of online gaming. For sure. Now I think it's more common that people understand that just because you have a female avatar doesn't mean you're female. Mm-hmm. And just because you do have a female character and are a female does not mean that you should, be a super weirdo. No, that's not understood yet. That's not understood. That's too bad. We should be done now. Yeah, we should. We're running late. Thank you for listening to my boring rant and my terrible reciting of my own speech as I tried not to get emotional about it. You should just be real cool. Everybody be real cool. That was our review of I can't remember the year. The Den from 2013. Be cool to girls on the internet. By which I mean just let them be alone. And if you see somebody being a dick to them, then I don't know, do something about it. Tell them to fuck off or something. I don't know. Maybe that's worse. I don't know what you're supposed to do with those people. I just get off the internet. That's not good, though. Get off the... It's the same... If you learned anything from the podcast, get off the internet. Get off the internet. Let everybody know where you can... Sake. Let everybody know where you can find this podcast on the internet. So, yeah. You can email me at reclusehorror@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Facebook, Instagram, and... Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Yes, on Twitter. But if you're a creepy dude looking to be creepy because I said something about women, it's actually Sam who manages those. Otherwise, it's me. If you're not those people, then it's me who manages those. Anybody trying to get creepy on the internet, hit me up. It'll be Sam loves mostly consensual, I'm sure. Yeah, thanks for listening. I wish we could go more in depth into what we were saying and have a real discussion about it, but we really have to get going. If you liked this podcast, please share it with somebody that you love. If you didn't like the platform that you found it on, you can find us on YouTube, Player FM, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and pretty much any podcast catcher out there. I think that's it. So thank you so much. And Sam, say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.